Hey guys, my name's Craig. Welcome to the Push Patterns channel. In this how to push to video, we'll be looking at how we can loop MIDI notes using note mode on the Ableton Live Push 2 controller. We'll be looking at how to set up something called record quantize, fixed length. We'll look at the recording setup. We'll look at a quick push chord trick. Then we'll look at how to loop. Okay guys, let's jump onto the push and see how all this is done. So select note mode by simply clicking this note button in the bottom right hand corner. Take you to note mode and make sure you have an instrument selected on a MIDI track. So here I've got a grand piano sound. Let's hear it. Okay, and we're in C major, and it's just the default setting on the Ableton Live Push note mode. Okay, so there's a couple of things we need to set up before we start looping. First thing is an optional. It's something I like to use in a live situation because my timing's not the best. So if we jump into Ableton, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to Edit, and we're going to select something called Record Quantization. So what this does is it will automatically quantize any MIDI information to the fixed grid in Ableton Live. So I'm going to choose a 16th note quantization, as it's going to not quantize it too much, but it's going to quantize it to the nearest 16th note. Select that, and now that's on. And that's a project-based setting, so it's not a global setting. What that means is I will have to change it each time I set up a new session. But once I save the session, it is then engaged. So now when I record, I'm magically in time, which is fantastic. Okay, the next thing is I want to decide how long my loop's going to last for, and I can do this on the push. So let's go back to the push. There's a button here called Fixed Length. And if I hold that down, the screen changes and it shows me the recording length. So what this means is I can select one of these options here and it will automatically stop recording and play back. So let's go ahead and look at how we can select a length. So if we click and hold down, press one of these track buttons underneath, it will change the length. So I'm going to select 4 bars, as that's how long I want the loop to be. Now to turn this on, what you will need to do is you will need to press the fixed length button once. So on the screen it says fixed length is on, and also the fixed length will remind you that it's on by flashing like this. Next thing you need to do is make sure the metronome is on so you can hear yourself and you're in time. You can turn it on by simply pressing the metronome button up the top here. You see mine was already on. If it wasn't on, it'd be just kind of static like this. Turn it on and it flashes in time to the speed of your project. You can also turn it on in Ableton like this. Turn this on here. You can adjust the speed here by scrolling up or down and typing in your tempo. I'm going to keep it the default 120. And yeah, so those are all the settings that you will need to get going. So let's look at recording in. Okay, so when we first record in, it's going to start straight away unless you have set up a count in Ableton. I'm not going to have a count in. You can do this by going up here and selecting 1 or 2 bars. I'm not going to have it because I want to replicate almost doing this in a live situation. So what I would do in a live situation is I'd press this record button here, let it go through the first cycle. So we've got it as 4 bars. First loop, and then I'll start recording. Okay, this record button here acts the same as the session record in Ableton, so it lets you kind of MIDI overdub, so you can add stuff or keep adding notes to the loop window whilst this button is engaged. So if you're not the greatest chord player, you could maybe play one line, add another line, and build it up. But I'm just going to play some basic triads. Okay. So let's talk about how you play chords on the push here. One little cool technique is using your finger as a triangle. So say if we start here in the middle, one finger, then we go up a level and across one note, and then our third finger will go one note apart from our first finger. And that's our chords in Ableton. Okay. So let's have a go at recording something in. So fixed length is on, metronome is on to help us stay in time, and we have record quantized on. Here we go. So press the record button on the push to go. I'm going to let it go through the 4-bar loop first, then we'll start playing. And then it automatically starts playing back for us. So we can add some notes on top. To come out of the record mode, simply press the record button again, and now it's just playing back, so you cannot add anything else on top. If you want to go back and add something on top, you can simply press it again. To stop everything playing, press the play button. Obviously the metronome is playing, keeping us in time, but it's not ideal in a live situation. So we'll look at techniques in a later video on how to disguise your pulse of your song, or you could just start with a drum beat. Okay, so now let's look at adding something to this. So I'm going to add like a kind of the left hand to the piano. Okay, so let's go up and select a new MIDI track by selecting the next MIDI track next to it. So there's no device loaded, so I'm going to go into Ableton. Little cool trick. If you want to use the same sound, what you can do is you can just go in, top of the track here, right click, copy, then go over to this MIDI track, click in this area, and then paste. And then you've got the track. Could go back into the browser window, but that saves you a little bit of time. Let's minimize the browser window for now. So now I'm going to do the same thing, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the root note of the chord, which is the first finger in the triangle. So now I want to go down the octave. How I go up and down the octave of notes is this kind of navigational button here. So this will take us left and right if we need to, or up and down. We're just going to worry about up and down now. So I'm just going to press it down 1 octave. So we get this sound. Okay, so I'm going to build that up as a new track. So I've got it selected here, my metronome's on, fixed length is still on. Let's press record. Turn the record off. And that's how you would loop some melody or some chords in note mode.